All right, recording in progress. Here we are live from the Angry Beaver. It's Kraken Fancast, powered by Silver City Brewery. I'm your host, Chris Porter. We've got a nice beer drinking Nathan Gunderson here in the middle, Jim Cockrell over on the side, and we told you earlier in this season that we'd be at the Angry Beaver once in a while, watch a game, and this is the perfect time to do so. The Kraken are going to take on the Florida Panthers in Florida. Where do they play? Sunrise, Florida? Is that where it's
right
in Miami?
Outside of Fort Lauderdale.
Right. Yeah, so Miami area. And we're going to be here all afternoon. Game time is at 3 p.m. Pacific time. Kraken were on a roll there. Well, they're on a number of rolls, a 6-game losing streak, which we will talked about on our last podcast. But, right before our podcast, we had those 2 games against one Washington Capitals and one against the Carolina Hurricanes. Wasn't looking too good. These guys beat 2 of the best teams in the NHL. So, okay, not so good. They're on a roll, feeling good with some momentum, but they had a long trek to Tampa last night, losing to Tampa Bay Lightning 3-0, their first shutout that they suffered. That it's not one of theirs. So kind of took two steps forward, a step back maybe. It was kind of a lackluster game last night, guys. Huh? I mean,
Man, the whole turnover thing has got me in my nightmares. Arid passing, turnovers. Jim, do you agree? I mean, we're passing without looking.
it's not crisp.
Well, the first thing I said last night about that game was they didn't feel like they were in it at all from the drop of the puck straight up. And then probably 5 minutes, the goal came at about 3:30 or something?
Yeah.
Right around 3.
Yeah, an early goal.
And then right after that, for the next couple of minutes, I said, that's it. They're playing timid. Whenever they have those big blowout type games, like against the one prior to this against the Avs, very timid play. They look scared to even dish the puck off, and the receiver of the puck's like, I don't want to hear you take it. So it's just nervous hockey, and I don't like it, obviously. But it only happens in those real bad shocking losses.
Now, yesterday and today, I'm not sure how many days he's going to have to be on this, but we have Captain and great defenseman Mark Giordano on COVID protocol. How much is that falling into here?
Leadership, he's gone. That's huge. In that room, other guys will step up, But he's solid on the point, no matter what. Offensive, defensively, yeah, you can pick apart his game if you want here and there, but he's got massive experience, like 16 years, 15, whatever it is. The guy's needed, even if he's slumping.
What is the protocol for the NHL? How long is he out?
Is it 10?
I think it's 10 days.
Yeah.
After a cleared test?
Yeah, I think it depends on the actual
Yeah.
level. If you contracted it versus B, contact versus.
He's probably out for the whole road trip.
Yeah.
They just had Tampa, Florida, then taking on Buffalo and Detroit, and then they're back home. So he might be back for first home game, but the road trip they can kind of forget it on. Tonight we got Chris Rieger in that group. I was been out in there a lot. Had phenomenal games against the Caps and the Hurricanes, but yesterday, okay. I mean, some of those goals weren't his fault, but some of them were, what we say, kind of meh, kind of like, well, maybe sometimes he could have picked that up. But anyway, he gets a rest. Chris Rieger playing his old team tonight. Again, we're at the Angry Beaver. We encourage everybody to come on down. Plenty of room here. Although people are starting to come in about an hour before puck drop, 40 minutes before puck drops, as we record this. Panthers are on a roll. I don't have my stats here of what their records are. I think they only lost 3 games. Is that right?
Yeah, but they're like some 11-0 at home or something.
Oh, great.
I
So
heard
they're
that
due for
stat.
a loss, folks.
Yeah.
They're due.
Let's just hope that what happened with Washington happens with us. So figure that the best solid team maybe gets knocked off.
I mean, the Seattle Kraken had a really great advantage if you were running up against two. Granted, there were two great teams, but they were on long road trips. It was the last game on a road trip. Not, tired out. I actually talked to somebody, guy we recently connected with, Mike Vogel. He's one of the main media guys for the Washington Capitals, does all their publications and a lot of the web stuff. And he was saying that, yeah, they had a hard game against the Sharks a day or 2 days before, and they were pretty tired out. They needed to get home. So Seattle could take advantage of that, and probably it was a similar story with the Canes. Now that's kind of flipped now, getting on the road, but they got to play the game, and maybe they'll be pissed off enough from last night. Let's see. Who else is? What else is going on today? You got some notes here, Jim. What do we got?
Oh God, typical game rewraps from what we experienced the last 3 games at a minimum.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, the stats were, encouraging.
I can go back to the Avs game even on 11-19. I automatically posted it as our worst game, other than that Philly debacle early on.
I'm gonna have to agree.
Yeah, this was just brutal. I was there with our other season ticket partner, Don, and we were trying to bear it. But there was just tons of mistakes, like you said, about the lousy passing. Drew had a bad night. On the other side, McCarr, after returning, after being out for a while, and I have him on my fantasy, so it's like, okay. He just had an incredible game, 2 goals. Ebbs had a tally for number 9. Tanev had a tally in losing efforts for number 7. Colin Blackwell got his first.
Nice to have Blackwell back. I think he's making a positive difference.
Right. So, when you're looking at the numbers, they weren't radically bad. The face-offs, though, we smoked them on that night for 63%, which was nice. It was a heavy hitting game on our side. So, I mean, on paper, it was way more even than the score.
You're not a paper guy though. You don't like.
I don't like deep dive stats. I like basic shit up front.
I messaged this guy and I said, and actually it was Chris that mentioned it. He said they were being outplayed last night, and
The Lightning game,
the Lightning game. And I look at all that stuff, and I try to base what we're doing against what they're doing on the other game, but it's something that they don't like to do. They don't like to look at analytics. They don't like to look at stats.
Well, I do
what
look
they're
at
doing now.
stats. No, I do look at stats, but the thing is, they don't always tell the whole picture. Like, what are the quality of shots? Okay, maybe. I mean, they were being outshot.
Yeah.
You're right. I mean, you made a fair point. I mean, while we were watching the game, the hits were similar. Some of the other stats they were looking okay on, but puck possession, they were down. And then again, it's what we started off by talking about, the turnovers and things.
Yeah.
They felt a little listless. I mean, Tampa didn't look super sharp for a lot of parts of that game either. It was kind of a weird game. It's kind of boring.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let me
Go ahead.
Let me clear up that whole statistical that you're trying to pin me on. So I only.
It's a bus. I
seriously,
drove right over him.
So I only do the basic post for the most part and compare it against the score, right? Because a lot of times it's opposite. I don't deep dive into the analytics that to me are just absolutely pointless. So, I don't even want to get into that because those get me fuming. And by the way, Chris, did I say that I went to the game with Dawn? This one or
You
you?
went with me.
I went with you.
I was gonna say where was
Because we were
Dawn? I
just
don't
hanging-
remember her there.
No,
I think I was sitting next to Jim, but I let you roll with it.
So
Who's keeping track other than me and you?
because it was a typical start,
Yeah.
right? The early goal or whatever, and we looked at each other and go, God, here we go again.
Yeah.
I mean, look, people, we're getting scored on in the first 5 minutes almost every game. It's something that's got to change. I would
The
rather
third
have
period, they were in a little bit of a roll. Yeah, when you're down 7-0, what do you got to lose? They actually looked good at the last few minutes.
It's a horrible pattern that needs to be stopped. I'd rather be scored 15 minutes in. I don't give a crap. Just stop that first 5 minutes.
My first game that I went to at Climate Pledge, like we mentioned in the last episode, was against Colorado. Was that a game that I should have gone to? Well, I thought so.
You had
But
fun
it's going to
despite
give you
the
a false
mess.
pretense of what Kraken hockey's all about. I don't know. You guys.
True. Keep going or what?
Yeah.
So 11-21 Kraken versus Caps. It's with Chris. Chris set it up.
Yeah, I was there. You and I were there for a lot of games.
Chris set it up for me. He said, watch, this is going to be one of those games where somehow we win against one of the toughest teams around.
I did call it.
And you did. And then you were doing your whole
Juju.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, yes, yes.
Listen,
This
listen,
is,
listen.
the things, yes. Oh,
Somehow
yeah.
you're gonna have the best
My
game of your life.
Shwami,
And everything.
yes.
It was
Yeah.
hilarious because
Yeah.
he's done that with several Bruins players over the years, and I pin him to it no matter what.
Yes,
But,
I've willed Taylor Hall's greatness.
Yeah.
That's a whole other
Exactly.
episode.
So that game, seriously, that game, typical start.
Yeah.
First 5 minutes, they score, right? But Drew was outstanding, and the shots were coming often. McCann answered quickly or reasonably with tally number 7. Schwartz had a beauty, and he had a 4-point night that night. By the way, that was just a killer
Yeah, that was
night.
beautiful.
Larson, the Larson goal, his first goal of the season with that
Yeah.
Sully and that big smile through the
Yeah.
glass of the
Oh,
fans.
he
That was pretty cool, actually.
He was stoked. Yeah, that was a beautiful goal.
And then boy Callie.
Callie
Yeah.
finally
Yeah.
getting on the board.
Checking
Finally.
in, finally.
Yeah.
Oh,
So going down the basics, Caps out shooting us, face-offs, Caps, power play. We actually got it going there, 1 for 1. The rest were pretty even. So this was also the start of a power play starting to pick up a little bit. It was hanging out at 8.2% or something forever, and it started taking off, and it's still going. So
yeah. No, power play, they're looking a lot great. Great
oh, I followed that up with our best game today.
Yeah.
actually. So
We came into yesterday's game with 4 or 5 power play
Yeah.
goals
Yeah.
in a row.
it's
Power
been
plays
hot.
like totally changed that around. Yeah. I mean, the Canes game went in, but they were outshot on that game. They came out with the finish. That was a really interesting game.
Yep.
Drew killed it.
Yep. So it was fun to leave the building on a high note against a very hot team. You know what? And you can also say it was kind of cool to see Obi. That was the first time I've seen Obi.
We saw an OB goal.
I saw
so we
Obi-
could say,
yeah, Obi
we've
goal,
seen
so
a
it's all right.
legend.
One.
Only one.
one.
We didn't want to see any more than
One.
that.
And you could
Perfect.
see, I mean, he was pretty frustrated in that game. He was getting shut down on lockdown at the end. I was totally impressed with the box out on, was it Donskoy on the PK?
Yep.
Mhm.
He was just boxing him out perfectly because, he lines up at the top of that circle
His office.
for that one-timer. And Chris is right next to me. And he probably heard me say, get on him, get on him, get on him the whole time. And sure enough, Donskoy was pushing him and the D perfectly. So he couldn't have played it better on a box. That was satisfying.
All right. And then just to wrap things up, the Canes game though, that was, as I mentioned, that one, they looked great in that game, but it was, the stats were a little lopsided. I was afraid the Canes were going to, throughout a lot of that game, I was like, oh God, these guys are going to come back. But
Right. Power play again with
power play was huge.
with McCann, hot pistol McCann. Alexiak had a very physical game, I noticed. Dunner had that nice rebuttal fight on that reverse hit in the corner. It was kind of chippy, and he just retaliated. Boom! So that was nice. But more importantly, and then the overtime not the overtime, but the winner from JoJo Johansson was just the old setting it up like a wraparound, stepping out, using the screen between the legs, perfect. Made some happy fans there for life. But more importantly, I want to ask you were at the game, and I was watching it on TV. I was loving it at home, and the crowd, everything. It was just so electric. Probably the most electric game I've seen on TV to this point. And I'm thinking, oh man, I have people there, and I know they're digging it. So how was it, Chris?
Out of all, I mean, they've all been electric to varying degrees, but that was probably a top 3 for sure out of all, because I've been now to eight home games so far. And other than like the opening game, obviously that everybody's super excited on that game against the Canucks, but it was, although, you know what, I'm going to back up a little bit and talk a little about Abs though, which you and I where we all were at. I was very touched at, and a Colorado fan was in front of us, mentioned this, like how still full the arena was. I mean, 7-0 or even 7-1 or whatever.
Nobody left.
And hardly anybody left. Everybody's still yelling there. And even though it's like, okay, maybe he was even sarcastic, who cares? It was just, they're getting a goal or 2 or 3 goals toward the end. everybody was still so into it. And the guy from Colorado, turned over to me. He's like, I'm impressed, man. Half the crowd in Denver would have walked out by now. And that's the case in a lot of play arenas and things. So I was very, very touched at how engaged the Seattle Kraken fan base was, all the attendees there were, people still so into it. And then the Caps game, people were really into it, but I think everybody's expectations are low. And then, holy crap, they're going to win this game. Whoa. So everybody's like super psyched at the end.
Right.
But that gave confidence because everybody, their new Canes are, playing as well as the Caps. So I think oh, wow. There was that fervor that we have no matter what, I think, but then there was also that fervor of hey, this team can do it. You'd see the fervor for a successful team.
Right.
So that was what was really touching on me. Yeah, it was really fantastic. I felt like the team turned a bit of a corner. I think if they can win certainly 3, but if they can win two to 3 of the games on this road trip, I wasn't expecting to win all 4. So, but I'll really start looking at this team differently, So this whole road trip is going to be kind of telltale. I mean, I'm keeping my expectations kind of tempered for the whole season, but there's a lot of games left, so it's going to be. I can't wait for the puck to drop for this one. It's gonna be interesting, and all the odds are stacked against them. But that's the thing with the parity on the NHL. On any given day, even the team that's doing poorly can beat one of those good teams. We see that in some past years with the Bruins, right? They're killing all the big great teams, and then they're losing to some teams struggling. It happens. So hopefully they're a little pissed off and got some good rest from last night from the Tampa game, and they're going to bring it to.
Right on.
Do we know who's going to go in the net today?
Drieger.
Grubauer?
Just mentioned Drieger.
Okay,
For sure.
Okay.
And by the way, when you brought that up earlier, I forgot that you didn't play with him.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
Plant
that makes
Panther.
sense,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So Drew got to play, some of the game. Well, it was he and Drieger were in that abs debacle, but Drew he was a Capital for quite a while, won a Stanley Cup with those guys. So he got to play against his old team. So Drieger, now it's his turn.
I also want to touch on, we talked about the loss and everybody hanging around. They post-interviewed several players, Grubauer being one, about that. And even they speak highly of that, but they don't normally see that.
Grubauer said I usually would get beer cans thrown at it. So I love that quote.
Trust me, I mean, they're telling the truth there. So that is cool because it's going right to the heart of the players. It's huge.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These Seattle fans, though, I mean, when I was at the game, like you were saying, they don't waver. They don't, oh man, I'm going home. I'm going to catch the monorail or the train. Oh, they stayed. They stayed right there. I couldn't believe it. It was the same amount of people that were there when I got there. When I left, I mean, it took me 15 minutes to take the monorail and get in. It took me an hour to get out of the stadium because there were so many people. And that was a blessing to see. And people say, oh, well, Seattle fans, they give up too easy, on the Seahawks and whatever else. No, this Kraken team, they're in for the long haul, regardless of the outcome. Regardless of the outcome.
Absolutely. All right. Well, hey, we're going to wrap it up a little bit here in our little tape delayed experiment here. We're doing this. We were trying to do this live stream. This is delayed for a little bit. Just we have to work out our streaming difficulties for the next one. But we'll be back at the Angry Beaver again in the future. Any other points? Anything else we should say? Wrap up, guys? Or?
Go.
Keep watching the Kraken. Good things are going to happen.
I like that. Here we go. Point counterpoint.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, thanks much to our sponsor again, Silver City Brewery, our home away from home, the Angry Beaver, where we are. And I hope all of you who listen and watch us patronize the Angry Beaver when you can. Seattle's #1 hockey bar. And also thanks to our other great sponsor, Mojito. Mojito, fantastic restaurant up in North Seattle. We'll be back with our regular podcast edition in about a week or so. So stay tuned. And as always, go Kraken!